Hi everyone, my name's Cole. I use he, him pronouns, and today I'll be delving into the intricate world of landmark Supreme Court cases that have shaped American law. So grab your gavel and let's explore landmark Supreme Court case Shaw v. Reno. Before we can dive into the facts of the case, we need to understand the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The second section of the 14th Amendment states, "Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Native Americans not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for President and Vice President of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age, and citizens of the United States, or are in any way abridged, except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the portion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 20 years of age in such state." This passage outlines the apportionment of representatives based on population among the several states, with Native Americans who are untaxed being excluded from the count. Any male citizens who are over the age of 21 are denied the right to vote unless he participated in a crime or rebellion. That state's representation in Congress will be reduced proportionately to the number of male disenfranchised citizens. Moving on to the Voting Rights Act, Section 4 of the bill states, "To assure that the right of citizens of the United States to vote is not denied or abridged on the account of race or color, no citizen shall be denied the right to vote in any federal, state, or local election because of his failure to comply with any test or device in any state with respect to which the determinations have been made under subsection B, or in any political subdivision with respect to which such determinations have been made as a separate unit, unless the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, in any action for the declaratory judgment brought by such state or subdivision against the United States, has determined that no such test or device has been used during the 5 years preceding the filing of the action for the purpose or with the effect of denying or abridging the right to vote on the account of race or color." This section specifically outlines the prohibition of any qualifications or prerequisites for voting that are discriminatory on the basis of race or color. Moving on to the facts of the case. In the year 1990, about 20% of the state of North Carolina's population was black, yet no black representatives had been elected to represent the state. Following the 1990 census, North Carolina gained another electoral district, prompting reapportionment. As a move towards more equitable representation, North Carolina crafted two majority black districts, District 1 and District 12. Ruth O. Shaw was a white Democrat residing in District 12 and sued on the grounds that the district was racially gerrymandered. Shaw claimed that drawing districts specifically on the basis of race violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. This clause that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of the laws. Janet Reno, the first female Attorney General, was chosen by former President Bill Clinton to represent the state of North Carolina in this case. Reno argued that the creation of a second majority black district was necessary in order to follow the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the purpose of which was to increase the representation of minority groups and allow them more of a voice when voting. The ruling and reasoning for this case left the Supreme Court's chambers on July 28th of 1993, and I'd personally like to argue that the reasoning behind this ruling is more important than the ruling itself, simply because of the precedent that it sets for future cases. Precedent is a principle or rule established in a legal case that becomes authoritative to a court or other tribunal when deciding subsequent cases with similar legal or issues of fact. The legal doctrine stating that courts should follow precedent is called stare decisis. Stare decisis is simply the Latin term for the phrase, "let the decision stand." In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Shaw, finding that it was unconstitutional and therefore unlawful to gerrymander purely on the basis of race. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor wrote the majority opinion for this ruling, stating that the court found that the boundaries of District 12 were so, quote, bizarre that the only reason they had been drawn in the first place was to conform to racial boundaries. Justices also referenced the Voting Rights Act, which does allow race to be considered when making reapportionment plans, but does not allow it to be the sole factor when drawing new districts. Justice O'Connor also writes that racial gerrymandering, even for remedial purposes, may balkanize us into competing racial factions. It threatens to carry us further from the goal of a political system in which race no longer matters, a goal that the 14th and 15th Amendment embody and to which the nation continues to aspire. In the dissenting opinion written by Justice White, he claimed that Shaw failed to show any evidence that a measurable harm had been done to the plaintiffs by the defendant. Another dissenting opinion written by Justice Stevens, he notes that the purpose of the Equal Protection Clause was to protect historically discriminated against racial minorities. Therefore, the white plaintiffs had no reason to bring the case to court. The difference between constitutional and unconstitutional gerrymandering has nothing to do with whether they are based on assumptions about the group they affect, but whether their purpose is to enhance the power of the group and control of the districting process at the expense of any minority group, and thereby to strengthen the unequal distribution of electoral power. Not only is this case a fantastic example of stare decisis and its power, I think it's also a fitting example of how important a published reasoning can be for a Supreme Court case, and how it's not always black and white. For instance, I agree with the dissenting opinion that the state of North Carolina was morally right while drawing their black voting districts, but I also agree with the majority opinion that ruling in favor of Reno would have opened doors to allow majority white voting districts to be gerrymandered at the expense of racial minorities. Please join me in my next video where I explain the relationship between the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you again.